Kate Lockhart from MCO, Nick Kochar from Refresh, Alana Coach from the Government of Saskatchewan, Kim McConnell from Ad Farm, Michael Hoffert from Farm Credit Canada, Tiffany Stevenson from the Ministry of Agriculture, Mohammed Torshizi from the Department of Bioresource Policy, Business and Economics, and the College of Agriculture and Bioresources. Competitors will have a maximum of 20 minutes to present. Immediately following the presentation, judges will have a total of 5 minutes to ask the presenters questions. A volunteer timekeeper will show time cards at various intervals to indicate the remaining time and will stop any speaker who exceeds the maximum time limit. No questions, comments, cell phones, or picture taking will be permitted from the audience at any given time. The audience will only be permitted to applaud following the question and answer period. The audience is also banned from any material that bears the name or symbol of a competing university. And we also ask that the audience exit the room immediately following the question and answer period. Competitors, you may begin when you're ready.
The opportunity to gain somebody's trust is a rare opportunity. For an individual to individual alone, it's not something that comes that often, and it's 100% earned. However, from an organization to an individual, it's one word in itself: a feat. Hello, Government of Saskatchewan. We are here today with exactly that: a step-by-step process and a plan to earn the trust of consumers in the agriculture industry. My name is Luke. With me, I have Mackenzie and Ilham, and we are Take Me Hard Consulting, or Team H. And we are here with you just to explore exactly how can you gain these trust from these consumers, make sure you're viable moving forward. So, first of which is we'd like to just look at where you are currently at now. You're in an innovative industry, and people need to know that. You are constantly finding ways to innovate, find new ways of doing things, produce more than you've ever produced before. And that's something that's very, very important. Second of which is your people can trust you already. You are a government. People can trust their government, and through initiatives like the farm care model, you can actually ensure that you can leverage this moving forward and really gain that trust to a whole nother level. However, there's something larger in the industry that you definitely need to address, which is these consumer misconceptions. Well, there's a lot of advertisements coming through, and by saying that 100% beef or 100 without hormones is something that's definitely affecting the industry. And we want to make sure that you can tackle this challenge with the best tools to ensure a viable future. So where are we going to take you? We're going to take you to a solution where you can educate consumers, where people understand the level of innovation and the health benefits that will be present with the product. Second of which is we're going to create awareness. Trust needs to be built on something, and that's awareness. People need to be aware of the steps that you are taking and the moves that you are making to ensure that you have the best product for them on the market. And finally, is we want to build that trust and convey that value. Just we've laid that foundation and finally reached that pinnacle, which is that trust. Essentially, this doesn't come without its challenges, though. The first of which is those misconceptions created by these private companies, such as A&W. We want to make sure that we're tackling these head on and finding a way to inform consumers so that, one, they're more decisive and they understand the information that they're being given and can judge for themselves because they have that information available. Second of which is that clutter of that message. There's a lot of messaging in the environment, and we want to have a unique message so we can break through that. And finally, is just the unawareness of the realities of the industry. There's a lot of employment options in the industry, but there's also a lot of things that go into the manufacturing and agriculture industry, so people just don't think farmers. There's a whole process behind it. We want to make sure that we educate on that today. This ultimately brings us to the problem of how can the Regina Service Branch educate their consumers to address misconceptions and instill confidence in the agriculture industry.
So we wanted to take a quick look at your operating environment. And when we looked at the animal agricultural industry, we really thought it was a key point that Saskatchewan is the second largest beef producer. You are innovative and you have that economic sustainability that is really important moving forward. As well, you are the diverse industry. You're made up of suppliers, producers, manufacturers, and people need to know that. They need to know the process that goes into this. When we actually look at your organization as a whole, you are locally produced, and that's so important to consumers. And you have that strong base of that farm and food care model, which is so important in establishing that trust, and you have that solid foundation to really build off of. And that really will build that trust and connection that you ultimately need to be able to achieve that bottom line. Then one big threat of this is the fast food industry really taking on that hormone-free stance on beef, which is something we really want to address in this plan to be able to really get rid of misconceptions and be able to really provide that message of the economic and innovative industry that is so locally produced. So that's why when we look at your customer, we find that it is best to target those 18 to 30-year-olds, and they're very receptive to those media campaigns, but an important thing about them is that they want value for their money, and they like locally sourced food. So really building off those two, we think we have a great plan for you. So that's why I want you to introduce you to local loving Laura. Who is she? She's 25 years old, she's healthy, she wants affordable food. And she wants that locally produced food because she cares about the ethical treatment of animals, and she cares about the sustainability of her economy and really helping out those different industries. But she right now currently lacks that confidence in the food management industry, and that's where we come in to be able to create that trust, really build that trust so that you are the first primary source of information. So really building off that, we think your competitive advantage is that you are the most official and trusted source of information. Right now, there's a lot of clutter in messaging with A&W and fast food chains, but we think that when you really build back to that grassroots, you are the government and you are trusted, so you just need to really remind them of that trust and reestablish that trust moving forward. So what does that mean? Basically, our key takeaway is that consumers are confused. They need to take action and become primary source of information so that you are the primary source of information for the agricultural industry and not those fast food restaurants.
So after brainstorming a few ideas, we came up with 3 distinct alternative solutions for your organization, really looking at the different ways to send that message out and really resonate with those consumers. So we did look at public service announcements, a possible trade show type idea, or a local and online campaign. To evaluate these different alternatives, we looked and analyzed your company and looking at really 3 distinct clear criteria that really align with your company, and wanted to make sure that each of these alternatives aligned with this and really emphasize what your company is going for. So the first one is successfully educating consumers. So really looking at that first issue of making sure that consumers are uninformed of those misconceptions. They really understand what the reality of the industry really is. The second is effectively reaching that target market. There's so much clutter out there of all this information. People are confused. We really want to break through that clutter, get that message to them, make sure they resonate with them, and they know what's going on with the industry, and they can trust you at the end of it. And the last one is creating that awareness of that industry. As Luke and Ilham both mentioned, there's so much going on with this industry. There's so much of a process. It's not just the farmers. We want to inform the consumers of this, reach that awareness so they know what's going on behind that, and they can get involved and invested in an industry that is so important. So looking at the first alternative of a public service announcement. So this is just that informative PSA, really letting people know what's up, like what's going on in this industry, really giving them all of the facts. We really believe that this will educate consumers. It will bring that awareness, but unfortunately, it doesn't really establish that trust. It's kind of impersonal. It's just giving them all of the facts, and it's not going to really reach them and really resonate with them. It's just going to be a bunch of facts that they're not going to be able to digest. Looking at the second alternative of looking at this trade show. So this is going to be kind of bringing in that local aspect, looking at all of those different processes, having each person from the different process of having the manufacturers and the producers, the farmers, coming in and looking at the final consumers, bringing them to one place to kind of share their ideas, share their knowledge, looking at the different job aspects and opportunities that people can come and look at. So this does educate consumers, it brings that awareness, but unfortunately, looking at that target market, we really don't believe this is going to reach them necessarily, because it's not really going to establish that trust. It's just going to be kind of those facts, and people might not want to come. People are busy at this time of their lives. Are they really going to have time to come to this trade show and learn about all of this? If they don't really have the right incentives, they're not going to want to come. Looking at the last and third alternative is that local and online campaign. So this is just looking at that local aspect, bringing it to that idea of really where the roots are of this industry, and bolstering consumer engagement with that online and within the local community. So this really does educate and bring that awareness to them, and it reaches the consumers in engagement to really interact with them, really have a message that resonates with them, and it's something that they will actually want to be involved in. Unfortunately, this may not have the potential to reach all of those consumers, but what we believe is that this is going to create word of mouth and buzz through that engagement, and it's going to really create an impact with the ones that it does reach. And that's what you want. You want to create that large impact with them, that it's going to resonate with them, and they're going to go back and really keep that in mind and know what's going on within this industry. So this brings us to looking at what alternative we should go with here today, and that is local and online initiative. We want to bring to you today Walk the Block. So this is really looking at breaking through the clutter, really creating that interaction, creating that consumer engagement with those people so they know what's going on within that industry, they know what's going on with the process, and it's just going to bring them in together to really know what's going on. There's 3 phases with this implementation: the walk, the talk, the tech. So the walk is really creating that consumer engagement, that they can really walk through the process and know what's going on. The second one is the talk, to create that buzz, really reinforce what the message is and what we really want to bring to them. And lastly, the tech is really bringing in that online part so they can find out more information, make sure that what they know is truthful, and they really can build that trust and know what's going on.
Essentially what this does is it makes sure that your branding is both innovative. You'll have an innovative message to break through that clutter. It'll be local, so that way you can target certain sections, make sure you get those sections down in those major areas, and then expand your message from there. Really take advantage of that word of mouth and really be strong with it. And finally, it's affordable, and we'll get into that in just a moment. But before then, Government of Saskatchewan, I'd like to invite you to take a walk with us. And I'll explain to you exactly what that means. Is essentially what you'll be doing is you'll be taking 5 physical city blocks around Saskatchewan in high density areas where the 18 to 30-year-old market is in high high traffic. So this could be university campus, downtown. And what it is that you start off, and just imagine this with me. You start off and you begin walking, and immediately there's something to your left, informing you of exactly a misconception that's going on here. And we'll move on. And then finally, another one on your right. And it's actually a physical walk that they can do down a city block, leading up to one final billboard at the end of the block with your final message. What this does is it creates a physical journey for the person using creative media outlets, and it makes it so that they can, one, walk about it, track their walk as well, really see kind of how innovative it can be. You can have definitely fun media on the ground as part of your messaging. We'll get to that in just a sec. Essentially what it does is it breaks through the clutter. You can't ignore something that you're literally walking through. And that's exactly what we're going to be working with today. It's something that'll resonate with this 18 to 30-year-old market because it's something that they can, one, be a part of. It'll educate them by giving them facts that they can do while walking and looking left, looking right, and finally this final message at the end. And finally, it's shareable content. It's something that someone, as a young person, I'd like to share my walk with someone else and see kind of how it is, because everyone's experience will be different with the walk. So in terms of what can some of this media be and what can some of the messaging be with these media outlets? Well, one can just be something simple. You can have just an image of a woman, and work is the amount of estrogen in one serving of cabbage is the same amount of estrogen of over 1,000 servings of beef produced with hormone implants. This is just a small statistic, but the thing is that it rings with consumers, especially young consumers. Another one is our beef production creates the healthiest and most affordable products. This is something that, again, is unique solely to the government of Saskatchewan, and that you're definitely taking advantage of. You're really voicing those benefits. Another one is the agriculture industry innovation results in fewer resources and smaller impacts on the environment. You're taking another cause and relating it to that. Really giving them 1,000 reasons in one walk to be on the side of hormone implanted beef and on the product that you're constantly innovating and putting money into every single day. And that's exactly why they're going on this walk with us. Yeah, go for it.
So really creating that talk and really reinforcing what Luke's talking about as really implementing a commercial aspect and really having that message reinforced of what's going on. So this is going to be shown on local TV and media and just kind of showing that to those local Saskatchewan. and providing food for a growing world. So it's kind of creating that common message of just being able to look at that innovative industry, really that technology that's going on and the efficiency that it's producing, and it's really just going to be connecting with them by showcasing these real people in the industry. These people are real and they know what's going on, and we really want to create that local aspect and those connections with the consumers. And it's going to be able to create that educational aspect for them, really reinforcing the facts that they've seen as they've walked across the walk. Lastly is connecting, once again, just really showcasing those real people and showing that with them. So picture this, just two people, they work in the local industry. They know what's going on. They don't believe that people know what's going on. They have these misconceptions. They don't know what's going on in this industry. They have this skewed idea of what the reality is. And so they want to show them what's going on. They think they need to walk them through it, and that's just it. It's going to then go to a demonstration of local loving Laura just walking through, showing them what this walk is, showing them that billboard at the end of it, and her just having a good time, just enjoying her walk as she's learning all of this information, learning the facts about the industry, and really learning about the process and who those local people are, and really trusting where this information's coming and where she's going to be getting her food from. And this will end with providing food for a growing world, really showing what Saskatchewan is all about.
So looking at the tech side of that last and final phase, we really talked about why somebody may not go with this alternative, and we think this really mitigates why you may not. So by creating this digital component, we are really being able to target and get those other consumers who may not actually be able to experience a physical walkthrough by actually having a digital walkthrough. So it's really going to be that digital source of information, and again, it's really going to be able to connect and build that trust and build that awareness, because it's going to be able to engage consumers and really create that interactivity, which is so important when we're trying to earn the trust of those consumers who don't currently have that trust, and at the end of the day, really increase your bottom line and have those impacts that you want. So looking at a rough timeline of this implementation, we want you to immediately begin this campaign development. So that means that that branding message and that walkthrough, and then in 6 months launching the walk and the billboard, just so they come out concurrently and that buzz is all really created at once. And then in 7 months, we want you to release that commercial that Mackenzie talked about, really showcasing people going through those walkthroughs and their experience with it, and really hitting home so people are able to actually connect with the different diverse employees and people who are actually come into contact with your industry on a daily basis. And then in 12 months, we want you to look at those metrics of success that Luke is going to talk about and really evaluate that and make sure you actually have that awareness and that trust built. So we want to look at the budget of this implementation that we brought to you today. We are considerably budgeting $500,000. This is $200,000 for that commercial to run, $250,000 for the walk and the billboard, $50,000 for that website and online digital component walkthrough. But we really want to stress that the benefits of this is that you are able to educate those consumers and really build that trust and awareness and have that risk management that is so vital to be able to catch up with all these negative ads that have been bombarding consumers. And at the end of the day, you're going to have that impact of successfully addressing those misconceptions and achieving your bottom line.
Just moving into some quick metrics. Of course, how do we know that we've been successful with this campaign? The first of which is we will run a focus groups. So these are multiple throughout Saskatchewan. And what we're looking for is an 85% positive attitudes towards the campaign and the messaging, but also a shift in attitudes towards how people perceive hormone-implanted beef, because this is very, very important as well. And from these focus groups, you should be able to get an idea of either what direction you should take from there, or is there any other steps that you can take from these focus groups. Another important one is just those website views. We want to make sure that people are taking advantage of these digital walks and really like using them, because we recognize that Saskatchewan isn't a place where everyone's crowded in one urban center. And so if people can't access these walks, we want to make sure that they're at least accessing them online or having this experience as well. So what we're looking for is about 100,000 digital walks in those first 4 months after the launch of the campaign. The next of which is employment. This is an interesting one because this will show just exactly how successful we've actually been in the industry. So what we want to do is we'd like to create 150,000 newly employed jobs within this industry in the next 2 years. The reason for this is that these are more people getting educated of the different positions available in the industry, potentially getting involved with them, and creating a higher GDP overall for the government of Saskatchewan. This is something that we find is very, very important with this implementation. It's something that's quite feasible. And finally is a survey. What we'd like to do with the survey is we want to just increase we want to measure that consumer awareness. How aware they are both of the campaign and these benefits of these implanted hormone beef. That's finally just something that we can measure just through this campaign. Finally, just moving into some risks associated with this campaign, because with all plans, of course, there are risks. And the first of which is that commercial receives lower views than anticipated. So if we receive less than 2 million impressions by the first 6 months after the launch of the campaign, what we would recommend is potentially moving these to an online YouTube advertisement. The reason for this is these are young people. They're on YouTube often. And so really what they can do is and YouTube, the way it works is that it's pay per view. So essentially, it could lower your costs, but what it would essentially do is it would give you another medium to be voicing your commercial to getting that impressions out. But ultimately, it would also lower those costs and keep them relatively low so that you're not busting that budget at all. Second of which is that we get less than anticipated digital walks. Like I said, we want to make sure that people are taking advantage of this. So if we've lower than 100,000 walks by those first 4 months, we haven't met our metric. So what can we do about it? Potentially, we can look for incentives to give consumers these walks. We could potentially post people who have done walks on your page for the website. Or you can work with different names of people who have done the walks themselves, put selfie sticks so people can record them and more people will want to do them. These are all options for you to help increase those digital walks online, especially in these smaller areas. Ultimately, what have we come with you today? We come with you with an opportunity, a feat, to build and earn that trust from the consumer population and put trust in hormone-implanted beef. Because there has been negative advertisements coming your way, and the only thing that you can do is build that awareness, and on top of that, that trust. And with that, we'd like to thank you for your time. We now open the floor to questions.
I just have a question. So do you think that your campaign is about providing technical information, or do you think it's about providing sort of an emotional description of how people feel about it?
I think it's actually both. So really educating those consumers on those technical aspects of the food industry, but also really pulling at those emotional heartstrings because they do want to buy locally sourced food. So kind of intertwining those to be able to create that one branding message that you are locally produced, but this is everything that goes into it, and that's what's so important to support it.
When I look at it, where you're spending the majority of your money, there's a good chunk going to commercial and a good chunk going to another billboard and the walk. If I look at your target audience, and I think of the world of Netflix and online, it feels like you're putting a significant portion of your budget into areas that maybe aren't there necessarily where they're going, where your target audience is going. So I know you talked a little bit about a risk of people don't use commercial, but why are you taking this approach to begin with?
So essentially, from the data that we were provided in the case, we've seen that young consumers are still using those TV advertisements and are taking advantage of them. So we definitely want to have that. It also bolsters an official message behind the campaign going through the television. So it's not something that you would see as an advertisement on Netflix or maybe like a 5-second advertisement, even that you could skip on some streaming website. So what we want to do is we want to have that official message initially and really make sure that that runs home. And then potentially we can move it online where the costs are cheaper and people's views can definitely be disassociated as well.
Can you expand a little bit how your campaign will increase employment and understanding of job opportunities?
We just believe that this is really going to create not new opportunities, it's just going to inform consumers of the opportunities of getting into this industry. So we really want people to understand all of the different opportunities in the process that they can enter in. And by being able to be informed with them, we think that this will kind of give them incentive and kind of open up the opportunities that they can get into. And this will kind of increase employment as people will want to go and enter into these jobs.
Can you expand upon how you would mobilize the agriculture and food community to be part of this campaign?
So we really think it's important to really be able to partner with those different foundations and all those different regulators. And we really think you already have that support. So by targeting those different unions and industries that are already existing with that branding message and really showing that you're there to support them, we think that will be a very easy and positive way to bolster their support and get them to actually have that message and add to that word of mouth that you really need to get this campaign going.
kind of following along that question, tell me a little bit more about your real people part of your being part of your online campaign.
Absolutely. So for the commercial, really what it is we're going to be voicing different people that have been a part of the process. So along with the walk will come in a progression of really what it goes from initially and ultimately how it lands into the hands of consumer. That's how we planned that we could definitely organize these facts, and the commercial should be organized the same way. Is everyone who's been a part of the process, really these real people, exactly that, showing their experience, how it's done for them, how great like it is to work in this industry or what their favorite thing is about it, and then ultimately how people are missing it, and that they definitely need to be walked through it to actually understand all the great work that goes into making that final product.
What points of time do you do the survey mention? Is it before you start the campaign, or is it going to be several surveys? And what kind of, because you see some survey results here in this report. How's your survey going to get you new information? Or what kind of information is it that you're looking for in those surveys?
Absolutely. So like as far as the survey goes, we're hoping to implement it after 1 year. So after the campaign's been or 1 year after launch. So after the campaign's been done, people have gone and used the online portal. People have gone and done the physical walk. We want to make sure that we're judging how aware people are, and that's exactly it. So for the survey, different from the one in the case, it's going to be specific to this messaging in relation. So like how has this helped in the education of this? Has this got facts? Has this changed your consumer perception on the hormone implanted beef and really judging this change